To describe this story as horrifying
would be an understatement.
it deals with the sexual abuse of children by satanic cults. The story of Teresa is a story almost too horrible to recount. At the age of 2, she was left in the care of this woman.
Teresa is now 15.
Your nan made you have sex with how many men or how many people would have sex with you?
What, at one time?
Yes.
But everyone who was there, which must have been about 20.
If it was a big ceremony, it used to be 30.
What would your grandma be doing?
Usually laughing, or smiling, or having sex with another man, or other men.
Teresa is learning what it's like
To live with love instead of fear.
to live with love.
They used cut from his throat down to his stomach.
He started screaming when they began to cut. They ate him, or bits of him.
They killed a man
Yeah, they ate him.
At a ceremony.
In front of you?
Yeah, in front of all of us.
Slowly repairing her broken life. For the first time, Teresa is learning what it's like
To live with love
to live with love.
instead of fear.
But
I'd seen a few killings.
Before then,
Are you saying that you saw more than one person killed in that house?
Yeah, I'd seen loads of babies killed there. Just newborn babies, or aborted ones, which were only small. Loads of babies.
Did they ever say they might kill you?
They threatened to kill my little girl when I left, was still at the house.
a friend.
Huh?
What little girl?
My little girl, Alex.
my little girl,
She's about 4 now.
You mean you had a child?
Yeah,
my little girl, Alex.
How old were you when you had that child?
11.
Luciferians worship various ancient pagan gods.
Most importantly, Lucifer.
Was Satan the devil ever referred to?
He was called Lucifer.
What did they say about the devil, about Lucifer?
Lucifer.
That killing the people made him happy.
Killing the people.
Made him happy.
Child rape, torture and murder are routinely practiced within Luciferianism, thought to appease their god Lucifer.
It sounded too far-fetched, as did suggestions that the same thing might be happening in Australia.
Luciferianism is a secret, multi-generational religion with its roots in ancient Babylon and Egypt. Luciferianism is arranged according to a hierarchical structure. At the very top sit 13 family dynasties, including the Rothschilds and the British royal family. These are recognised by cult members as
Don't mention the reptiles. They'll just laugh at you again. I said, I know.
These are recognised by cult members as demigods. 13 family dynasties, including the Rothschilds and the British royal family, as demigods. Below these, there are 300 Luciferian bloodlines. I stem from one of the 300 bloodlines. The Jesuits are Luciferians who practice ritual murder and child rape. An increasing number of Australian politicians who hold power now are Jesuits. This is why right has now been confused with wrong, why the government bodies support the perpetrator instead of the victim of crime, and why our legislation is increasingly reflecting Luciferian pedophile doctrine.
I was taught that I serve the ultimate power. Well, he began to pray to his God, and what that did to me was really wreak havoc. Caused all of the demonic powers that I thought I had in control manifest themselves. You know, the room began to fill up, and they began to threaten me because I had taken them into a situation against a power that they couldn't stand against. Because this minister believed in everything that Jesus did. Started teaching on spiritual warfare. He was standing on spiritual laws that were superior to ours. And my encounter with him really shook the foundation of everything that I had been taught. After that point, I began to question everything I'd been taught in Satanism about the power of darkness, because I'd been taught that I served the supreme ruler.
And I've got to say that I've had Jesus Christ appear mid-ritual when I was 15, where Jesus, I'm sure it was Jesus, just this white light filled up in the room. White light. And everyone hit the deck, they're in their robes, and it was underneath one of the churches, in the, the dungeon, where they always have an altar, underneath the main altar upstairs. And everyone freaked out, were clawing through the ground, mid-ritual. And I legged it down the street. I ran down the street fully robed, and I ran into a Christian's house. I legged it down the street. Now, I knew they were Christians because we called them lights. And we used to have meetings. I used to sit in on meetings where they would plan, how are we going to get rid of these lights?
So I was moved to this one state, and one of my assignments was to tear apart or destroy the ministry of this one man.
Why would you care about
If Jesus didn't exist, what difference does it make if you...
tear a minister apart or not? What's the big deal?
Because this minister believed in everything that Jesus did.
And you don't get many of them. Where there were genuine Christians who actually prayed, and you don't get many of them. The Luciferians couldn't work their magic. They couldn't, their curses, hex spells had no power. Their curses, hex spells had no power. Anyway, I ran straight into the lounge room of this couple's home, and you don't get many of them. Had no power. And they were watching telly, and I ran in and I just said, pray. I'm fully robed, and I said, just pray. And that's the last ritual I ever attended. And I got out after that, and when I had to go before the Grand Council and give reasons as to why I was leaving, I said, hey, you told me that your God's all powerful, all knowing, all present, blah, 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 you know. I said, well, who's that dude that turned up? Who was that? Well, who's that dude down there underneath the church? Well, all powerful, all knowing, all present, blah, 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 that turned up. And they all went silent, they couldn't answer it. And I said, yeah, well, till you got an answer. Who's that dude that turned up? I'm out of here, you know, till you got an answer.
That there is not just an ultimate power in God, but
You do not know God.
part of that power is the strength of love. Part of that power is strength of love.
You don't know love.
Day, Lord have mercy, child. I don't. Day, Lord have mercy, child. I don't know what you've been doing, but I've been talking to God, and He told me to call you and tell you to stop. Day, Lord.
When she said those things, what did you think?
I used to think,
Day, Lord have mercy, child. Grandma's just, she's cat's meow, you know. She's got it all together, you know. She knows about spiritual power.
Certainly you heard about Jesus.
Jesus to me was a man who was stupid enough to find himself nailed to a cross. He was a good man. Nailed to a cross. Okay, he had a message from God, but unless people took advantage of his message, then they had no authority to stop you. And if they chose not to learn how to stop me, then they didn't have a right to keep anything I wanted to take from them. Would you give him a chance? And I said, certainly. I struck a deal with the devil once. I can certainly do the same thing for God and give him a try. Yes.
Are you telling me that he's got nothing compared to the power of God?
Nothing. He has counterfeits wrapped up in pretty packages that he's been using from the beginning of time to fool people into thinking that he's got the ultimate power, so that folks will never know that there is not just an ultimate power in God, but part of that power is the strength of love.
Love instead of fear.
You do business with the living God. God will give you
Love instead of fear.
God will give you a peace. God will live inside of you.
and
God will give you, like what you're experiencing right now. Some of you are
Learning what it's like to live with love instead of fear.
no God, no love.
well, I kind of fell in love with this. Is everything I ever wanted.
If you do not know acceptance
you have no way of coping.
with what's going on in this world,
Of coping.
Don't mention the reptiles. They'll just laugh at you again. I said, I know, but I've seen enough and heard enough to believe that it's real, and so I say it. I don't care about the consequences for me. Are you frightened? No, I'm not. Are you frightened? I don't care, because the consequences for the world and my children and my grandchildren and everyone else's of humans not intervening in this process that's going on now ever more quickly are that we are condemning our children and grandchildren, indeed ourselves. It's that close to a world that George Orwell so massively understated.
to know God is to know love.
So horrific, it's hard to believe. You have to ask Teresa, could Teresa be just making it up?
No. I know what's true and what's not. No, I know what I saw.
This couldn't be a terrible dream, a nightmare that you're reliving.
No. It's no dream. It's a nightmare, but it's not one you can wake up from. It's there all the time.
This really happened, you're quite sure of that?
Yeah.
The police don't think Teresa made up a story. Some of the cult members are to stand trial. There's a poem Teresa made up while she was staying at Nan's place. She calls it
Nothing left.
Nothing left. I would scream, but there is no voice left. I would cry, but there are no tears left. I'd fight, but there is no strength left.
Satan's pretty much just a spoiled brat who knows his time is near, and he's pulling out all the stops to keep his little sandcastle kingdom from being washed away.
Well, so did this.
The Greek. Very pedophile New South Wales police dogs
We're locked up in their castle in a secret Olympian city, never to see the light again.